Have you ever wondered why some people seem to attract wealth effortlessly, while others spend their entire lives chasing it? What if the real secret to abundance isn't found in bank accounts or business deals, but in the silent shifts happening inside your own mind? Most people believe wealth is something you earn, something you hustle for, something you fight to possess. But the truth is far more powerful and far more unsettling. Real wealth doesn't begin with a paycheck. It doesn't start with a lucky break or a sudden windfall. It starts with a single invisible decision the moment you refuse to accept an ordinary life. If you're noticing certain changes in yourself, restlessness, a hunger for more, a sense that you're meant for something greater, these aren't just passing feelings. They're signals. They're the first signs that you're stepping onto a path most people never even see. Because every fortune, every legacy, every story of lasting success begins not with money, but with a mindset. And if you're seeing these signs, it means you're already further along than you think. But what are these signs, and how do you know if you're truly on the path to wealth? The answers might surprise you, and the first one is closer than you realize. Starts quietly, almost like a whisper you can't ignore. The routines that once felt comfortable now seem suffocating. You find yourself restless in situations that used to satisfy you, mundane conversations, pointless distractions, the endless cycle of working just to get by. Where others see normalcy, you feel a growing sense of discomfort, a subtle but persistent urge to break free from the ordinary. This isn't just frustration with your circumstances, it's a deeper awakening. It's your mind rejecting the patterns and habits that have kept you stuck in place. You begin to notice how mediocrity creeps into every corner of life, how it disguises itself as good enough, how it tempts you to settle for less than you're capable of. But now you can't stand it. The idea of clocking in without purpose, spending hours on things that don't matter, or surrounding yourself with people who drain your energy becomes unbearable. You start to crave more meaning, more challenge, more growth. This discomfort is not a flaw, it's a sign that your identity is shifting. You're no longer content to blend in or follow the crowd. You want to stand out, to build something real, to live with intention. And as this discomfort grows, you start making different choices. You say no to things that once filled your time. You distance yourself from people who keep you anchored to the past. You question beliefs that once felt unshakable. Every decision, every small act of rebellion against mediocrity is a step toward a new reality. This is the first turning point, the moment you realize that wealth isn't just about money. It's about refusing to accept a life that doesn't inspire you. And as you lean into this discomfort, you'll discover that it's not here to hold you back. It's here to push you forward. But that's only the beginning, because the next sign is even more revealing. There comes a moment when you realize that time is the most valuable asset you'll ever possess. It's not just a cliche, it's a revelation that changes everything. Suddenly you see how easily hours slip away, traded for fleeting pleasures or wasted on distractions that leave you empty. Where you once lived for the weekend or counted down the hours until the day was over, now you measure your days by what you build, not by what you escape. This shift is profound. You begin to understand that the wealthy don't just have more money, they have a different relationship with time itself. You start to notice how the average person spends time as if it's endless, trading it for comfort or entertainment, never questioning where it all goes. But you, on this new path, become fiercely protective of every minute. You say no to invitations that don't align with your vision. You cut out mindless scrolling, idle chatter, and anything that doesn't move you closer to your goals. It's not about arrogance, it's about alignment. Every second you reclaim is a brick in the foundation of your future. You realize that an hour spent building your dream is worth more than a year spent wishing for a different life. This new awareness transforms your daily habits. You stop living reactively, letting the world dictate your schedule. Instead, you become intentional, designing your days around your highest priorities. You start to see time as the currency of the wealthy, the one thing you can never get back but can always invest. And with every decision to protect your time, you're making a silent declaration. Your future matters more than your comfort. You're no longer available for anything that drains your energy or distracts you from your mission. This is the mindset that separates those who merely wish for wealth from those who actually create it. Because when you treat your time like treasure, you begin to attract opportunities that match your new standards. You become the kind of person who values progress over pleasure, vision over distraction. And as you master the art of investing your time, you'll find that the world starts to respond in unexpected ways. But the journey doesn't stop here, because the next sign is even more powerful, and it's all about the one thing that can never be stolen from you: your focus. Focus is the silent force that shapes destinies. While most people scatter their attention across 1,000 trivial things, you begin to realize that your ability to concentrate is your greatest weapon. It's not just about working harder or longer. It's about working with a level of intensity that most never reach. You notice how easy it is for others to be pulled in every direction, reacting to every notification, every headline, every demand for their attention. But you're different now. You're learning to guard your focus like a fortress, understanding that every distraction is a thief stealing from your future. This shift doesn't happen overnight. It starts with small choices: turning off your phone when you need to think, carving out time for deep work, refusing to let the noise of the world drown out your own voice. You become intentional about what you consume, choosing books over gossip, learning over mindless entertainment. You realize that attention is a form of wealth, and the man who can control his attention can control his outcomes. Where others are reactive, you become proactive. Where others consume, you create. Where others chase, you attract. As your focus sharpens, you begin to see results that others can't explain. Projects move forward faster. Ideas become reality. You start to attract people and opportunities that match your level of seriousness. It's not luck, it's the natural consequence of being fully present and fully committed. You stop comparing yourself to others, because you're too busy building your own path. The opinions and distractions that once held you back lose their power over you. You walk with direction, and that direction becomes your shield against confusion and chaos. This mastery of focus is what breaks the chains of poverty, mental, emotional, and financial. When you are focused, you become unshakable. You can't be manipulated by trends or swayed by the opinions of the crowd. You know where you're going, and every action you take is a step toward that vision. This is the posture of someone who has decided, someone who is no longer available for anything less than excellence. And as your focus deepens, you'll discover a new level of clarity and power that most people never experience. But focus is just the beginning, because once you learn to direct your attention, the next sign emerges: a shift in how you think about the future and a new obsession with building something that lasts. A true turning point on the path to wealth is when your mind breaks free from the trap of instant gratification. Suddenly, you're no longer seduced by quick wins or fleeting pleasures. Instead, you start to see the bigger picture: years, not days; legacy, not just lifestyle. This is the moment you begin to think like a builder, not just a consumer. You realize that every choice you make is either laying a brick for your future or tearing one down. The wealthy don't just chase income, They construct systems, develop skills, and accumulate assets that continue to pay them long after the initial effort is done. You start to ask different questions. Instead of how does this make me feel right now, you wonder how will this decision serve me in 5 years? You become obsessed with creating things that last: habits, relationships, businesses, and even your own character. You see that true wealth is built on a foundation of discipline and vision. You're no longer interested in shortcuts or easy money. You want to build something that can weather storms, something that can be passed on, something that outlives you. This shift changes how you spend your time, your energy, and your money. You invest in learning new skills, knowing that knowledge compounds. You build routines that support your growth even when motivation fades. You start to see your reputation, your network, and your mindset as assets, things that can be grown, protected, and leveraged. You understand that every book you read, every skill you master, every relationship you nurture is a seed planted for future harvest. And as you build, you become more patient. You stop expecting overnight results. You know that empires aren't built in a day, and that the most valuable things in life require time, effort, and consistency. You begin to appreciate the process, not just the outcome. You find satisfaction in the daily grind, knowing that each disciplined day is a deposit into your future. This is the mindset that separates those who merely wish for wealth from those who actually create it. But this long-term thinking does more than just change your habits, it transforms your identity. You start to see yourself as a steward, not just a spender. You become the architect of your own destiny, building assets of character, skill, and value that no one can take away. And as you continue to build, you'll notice another powerful shift. Your entire relationship with money begins to evolve, revealing a new level of freedom and possibility. One of the most profound shifts on the journey to wealth is the way you begin to see money itself. Where once money might have seemed like the ultimate goal, now you recognize it as a tool, powerful but never the master. You stop fearing money, stop idolizing it, and start respecting it for what it truly is: a mirror reflecting the value you bring to the world. This is the moment you realize that money doesn't change who you are, it amplifies what's already inside you. If you're generous, it multiplies your impact. If you're careless, it magnifies your mistakes. You begin to understand that money is not earned by simply trading hours for dollars. The wealthy don't just work harder, they work smarter, leveraging their skills, ideas, and systems to create value that multiplies. You start to see opportunities for leverage everywhere. A skill that can be taught, a system that can be automated, an idea that can scale far beyond your own effort. You realize that true wealth is built not by hoarding, but by creating and multiplying value. This new mindset changes your relationship with risk. Instead of avoiding it, you learn to manage it. You see that every investment, whether it's in yourself, your business, or your relationships, carries some risk, but also the potential for exponential reward. You stop playing it safe and start playing to win, knowing that the greatest returns come to those who are willing to step outside their comfort zone. You also stop measuring your worth by your bank balance. You understand that money is just one form of wealth and often not the most important. Character, reputation, knowledge, and relationships, these are assets that can't be stolen or lost in a market crash. You start to focus on building these invisible forms of wealth, knowing that money will follow naturally when you become a person of real value. And perhaps most importantly, you stop waiting for permission to prosper. You no longer look for signs from the outside world to tell you it's your time. You become the sign. You take responsibility for your financial destiny, knowing that wealth is attracted to those who act with intention and integrity. This is the essence of wealth consciousness, understanding that abundance begins in the mind, and that your mindset is the soil from which all riches grow. But as your money mindset evolves, another powerful force begins to take over: an obsession with growth and momentum that propels you forward, no matter the obstacles. There's a moment on the path to wealth when growth stops being a chore and becomes an obsession. You find yourself hungry for knowledge, constantly seeking out new ideas, new skills, and new perspectives. The books you once ignored now call to you. The conversations you used to avoid, those with people who challenge your thinking, now become your fuel. You start to replace empty entertainment with mentorship, trading gossip for guidance and complaints for commitments. This is not just self-improvement, it's a relentless pursuit of becoming more than you were yesterday. You realize that every day is an opportunity to stretch your mind and expand your capacity. You're no longer satisfied with theory alone. You crave execution. You want to see what happens when you put ideas into action, even if the results aren't perfect. You understand that momentum is the real secret weapon of the wealthy. It's not about how fast you move, but about never stopping. Speed fades, but momentum compounds. Every disciplined day you stack, every focused hour you complete, every hard choice you follow through with adds weight to your character. And with each small win, your confidence grows. Momentum is magnetic. People notice when you're serious about your growth. Opportunities start to find you not because you're lucky, but because you're moving. The world responds to those who are in motion. You begin to see that the greatest asset you can build is not a bank account, but a track record of consistent progress. Even when you stumble, you don't lose ground, you learn, you adapt, and you keep moving forward. This resilience becomes your superpower. You also start to understand the difference between motivation and momentum. Motivation is fleeting, it comes and goes with your mood. But momentum is built through action, through showing up day after day, even when you don't feel like it. You stop waiting for the perfect moment and start creating it. You realize that imperfect action beats perfect intentions every time. The more you execute, the more you grow, and the more you grow, the more you attract. This obsession with growth transforms your identity. You become the kind of person who expects to win, not because you're entitled, but because you've earned it through relentless effort. You walk with a quiet confidence, knowing that every step forward is building a future that most people only dream about. And as your momentum builds, you'll notice another powerful shift. The words you speak to yourself begin to change, shaping your reality in ways you never imagined. As you continue on the path to wealth, you begin to notice a subtle but profound transformation in the way you speak to yourself. The words you use, both out loud and in your mind, start to shift from doubt to certainty, from hesitation to conviction. Where you once said, "I can't," you now say, "I will." Where you used to wonder, "Maybe one day," you now declare, "It's already happening." This isn't just positive thinking, it's the conscious rewriting of your internal script, and it's one of the most powerful tools you possess. You realize that language is more than just communication, it's creation. Every word you speak is a seed planted in the soil of your subconscious. If you constantly repeat stories of failure, limitation, or fear, those stories become your reality. But when you choose words of power, clarity, and intention, you begin to shape a new future. You become careful with your language, understanding that your mind is always listening. You stop making jokes at your own expense. You stop repeating the narratives that kept you small. Instead, you use your voice to prophesy your own success. This change in self-talk doesn't happen by accident, it's a daily discipline. You catch yourself when old patterns try to creep in. You correct your course when you notice negative self-talk. You start your mornings with affirmations, not as empty rituals, but as declarations of who you are becoming. You speak victory over your life, even when the evidence isn't there yet. You understand that your words are the first building blocks of your reality. As your language evolves, so does your confidence. You no longer need external validation to feel worthy. You don't wait for others to recognize your progress, you recognize it in yourself. You become your own source of encouragement, your own coach, your own motivator. This internal strength is what separates those who merely wish for change from those who create it. You stop talking about your goals as distant dreams and start speaking about them as inevitable outcomes. And this shift in language doesn't just affect you, it influences everyone around you. People notice your certainty. They feel your conviction. Your words carry weight and your presence commands respect. You become the kind of person others want to follow, not because you're loud, but because you're clear. You understand that true leadership begins with self-mastery, and self-mastery begins with the words you choose. But the transformation doesn't end here. As your self-talk strengthens, you'll find yourself naturally drawn to new environments and new people, those who challenge you, inspire you, and help you rise to even greater heights. As your mindset evolves and your standards rise, you begin to notice a powerful shift in your relationships and surroundings. The people you once felt comfortable with may now seem out of sync with your new direction. Conversations that once entertained you start to feel empty, and environments that used to feel like home now seem stifling. This isn't arrogance, it's evolution. You're not leaving people behind out of pride, but because your vision demands a higher level of energy, focus, and ambition. You start to realize that proximity is power. The people you spend the most time with shape your habits, your beliefs, and ultimately your results. If you surround yourself with those who settle for less, who complain, who make excuses, it's only a matter of time before their mindset rubs off on you. But when you place yourself in rooms where excellence is the baseline, where ambition is normal and growth is expected, you can't help but rise to the occasion. You begin to seek out mentors, peers, and communities that challenge you to think bigger, act bolder, and become better. This shift often requires difficult choices. You may need to distance yourself from relationships that drain your energy or keep you anchored to your old identity. You might find yourself spending more time alone, using solitude as a space for reflection and growth. You understand that loneliness is not the enemy, stagnation is. You'd rather be alone on the path to greatness than surrounded by people who are content with mediocrity. As you upgrade your circle, you also become more intentional about your environment. You curate the spaces where you live, work, and learn, removing distractions and adding reminders of your goals. Your home becomes a sanctuary for focus and creativity. Your workspace is organized for productivity. Even your digital environment, what you watch, read, and listen to, is chosen with care, designed to feed your ambition rather than sap your strength. This new environment accelerates your growth. You find yourself having deeper conversations, asking better questions, and receiving insights that would have been impossible in your old circles. You realize that you don't need to be the smartest person in the room, you just need to be in rooms where smart people are talking. You become a student of wealth, not just in terms of money, but in principle, energy, and legacy. And as your circle and environment evolve, so does your resilience. You're no longer easily shaken by setbacks or adversity. Instead, you see every challenge as an opportunity to grow stronger, to refine your character, and to prove to yourself that you belong in the company of greatness. This is the next sign on your journey. Adversity no longer breaks you, it builds you. And with each test, you become more prepared for the wealth and success that are waiting ahead. Adversity is the crucible where true wealth is forged. While most people shrink from hardship, seeing it as a setback or a sign to give up, you begin to recognize adversity for what it truly is: a test, a teacher, and a source of strength. The challenges you face are no longer obstacles to be avoided, they are opportunities to be embraced. Every setback, every failure, every disappointment becomes raw material for your growth. You stop asking, "Why is this happening to me?" and start asking, "What is this trying to teach me?" This shift in perspective is powerful. Instead of resenting pain, you start to extract wisdom from it. You realize that every obstacle is training, preparing you for the next level of responsibility and abundance. Where you once folded under pressure, now you rise. You learn to alchemize pain into progress, using every difficulty as fuel for your ambition. The sting of rejection, the frustration of delay, the weight of failure, these no longer break your spirit. Instead, they sharpen your resolve and deepen your character. You begin to see that adversity is not a detour from the path to wealth, it is the path. The most successful people in history are not those who avoided hardship, but those who learned to thrive in the midst of it. They understood that every trial is a chance to build resilience, to test their commitment, and to prove to themselves that they are worthy of the rewards they seek. You adopt this mindset, refusing to let setbacks define you. Instead, you let them refine you. With each challenge you overcome, your confidence grows. You become less reactive and more strategic, learning to respond to problems with calm and clarity. You stop fearing failure, knowing that every mistake is a lesson in disguise. You develop the humility to admit when you're wrong, the courage to try again, and the wisdom to adjust your approach. This is the mark of someone being prepared for great wealth, because wealth requires a strong container, and that container is character. Adversity also teaches you patience. You learn that real success is not built overnight, and that the journey will test your endurance as much as your skill. You stop looking for shortcuts and start embracing the process, trusting that every struggle is shaping you into the person you need to become. You realize that the ability to endure, adapt, and grow through hardship is what separates those who merely dream of wealth from those who actually achieve it. And as you continue to use adversity as fuel, you'll notice another transformation taking place. Your discipline and structure become unbreakable, laying the foundation for a life of true abundance and stewardship. Discipline is the silent architect behind every lasting fortune. As you move further along the path to wealth, you begin to see that talent and ambition are only the starting points. What truly separates those who build empires from those who merely dream is the ability to show up day after day, regardless of mood or motivation. Discipline is not a punishment, it's a privilege. It's the invisible force that protects your time, your energy, and your focus from the chaos of the world. You start to notice how structure becomes your ally. Your mornings are no longer rushed or reactive. They're intentional, designed to set the tone for the day. You organize your environment, your calendar, and your priorities with the precision of someone who knows that every detail matters. You track your habits, measure your progress, and hold yourself accountable, not because someone is watching, but because you understand that self-respect is built in private. You realize that the man who can be trusted with small things can be trusted with much more. Stewardship becomes your new standard. You stop seeing resources, whether it's money, time, or relationships, as things to be consumed and start seeing them as gifts to be managed wisely. You become careful with your spending, intentional with your commitments, and generous with your value. You understand that wealth is energy, and energy flows to those who create structure and order in their lives. The more disciplined you become, the more abundance you attract, almost as if the universe is rewarding your consistency. This new level of discipline isn't about rigidity or perfection. It's about building systems that support your growth even when motivation fades. You automate good decisions, create routines that make excellence inevitable, and design your life so that success becomes the default, not the exception. You stop relying on willpower alone and start building habits that carry you through the tough days. You know that greatness is not the result of one big effort, but the compound effect of small, disciplined actions repeated over time. As your discipline deepens, so does your sense of responsibility. You no longer blame circumstances or other people for your results. You take ownership of your choices, your outcomes, and your future. You understand that freedom is not the absence of responsibility, but the mastery of it. The man who cannot be responsible cannot be rich, because wealth will always flee a life of disorder. But when you become a steward of your habits, your vision, your resources, you create a structure that abundance can flow into. And as you master discipline and stewardship, you unlock the next level of wealth building, the ability to regulate your emotions and multiply your value, turning every experience into an asset that compounds over time. Emotional intelligence is the hidden engine that powers true wealth. As you progress on your journey, you begin to realize that mastering your emotions is just as important as mastering your craft. Where you once reacted impulsively to setbacks or let your mood dictate your actions, now you pause, reflect, and respond with intention. You understand that emotions are signals, not commands. They can inform you, but they don't have to control you. This ability to regulate your inner world becomes a superpower, allowing you to make decisions based on principle, not pressure. You start to notice how emotional intelligence multiplies your effectiveness in every area of life. In business, it helps you navigate negotiations, build trust, and turn conflict into collaboration. In relationships, it allows you to listen deeply, communicate clearly, and support others without losing yourself. You become less reactive and more strategic, able to see the bigger picture even when emotions run high. This calm presence sets you apart, making you a leader others want to follow and a partner others want to trust. But emotional intelligence is more than just self-control. It's about using every experience, good or bad, as fuel for growth. You learn to extract lessons from pain, to find opportunity in adversity, and to turn setbacks into stepping stones. Instead of being derailed by disappointment, you use it to sharpen your focus and strengthen your resolve. You stop seeing challenges as threats and start seeing them as invitations to rise higher. This mindset of multiplication means that nothing is wasted. Every emotion, every experience, every mistake becomes an asset that compounds over time. You also begin to multiply your value in practical ways. You look for opportunities to leverage your skills, your network, and your resources. You ask, how can I turn this one effort into many results? How can I create systems that work for me even when I'm not working? You invest in learning, knowing that knowledge multiplies when shared. You build relationships that open doors you couldn't open alone. You create products, content, or services that continue to serve others long after the initial effort is done. This shift from consumption to multiplication is what separates the wealthy from the merely comfortable. Poor minds spend and consume, always looking for the next thrill or distraction. Wealthy minds invest and multiply, always seeking ways to turn today's effort into tomorrow's abundance. You delay gratification, knowing that the seeds you plant now will yield a harvest in the future. You become a builder not just of wealth, but of value, impact, and legacy. And as you master emotional intelligence and the art of multiplication, you'll notice another transformation. Your very identity begins to shift. You no longer see yourself as someone trying to get ahead. You become the kind of person who is destined to lead, to build, and to leave a mark that lasts. There's a moment on the journey to wealth when you realize the most important transformation isn't external, it's internal. The real breakthrough happens when your identity shifts. You stop seeing yourself as someone who's just trying to make it and start seeing yourself as someone who is meant to build, to lead, to create. This isn't about arrogance or wishful thinking. It's about aligning your actions, your standards, and your habits with the person you know you're becoming. You begin to hold yourself to a higher standard, even when no one is watching. The shortcuts that once tempted you now feel beneath you. The excuses that used to sound reasonable now ring hollow. You start to do the hard things not because someone is forcing you, but because you expect more from yourself. You realize that your future is shaped not by what you occasionally do, but by what you consistently choose. Every disciplined morning, every focused hour, every promise kept to yourself is a vote for the person you're becoming. This shift in identity is subtle but powerful. You notice it in the way you talk about your goals. You no longer say, "I hope I can," or "maybe one day." Instead, you speak with certainty. "I am becoming. It's already happening. I'm catching up to the vision I've set." You walk with a quiet confidence, not because you have all the answers, but because you trust your process. You understand that energy doesn't lie. When your mind is made up, reality begins to bend in your favor. Your habits start to reflect this new identity. You eat for energy, not just for pleasure. You rest to recover, not to escape. You read to expand, not just to pass time. You become intentional with your environment, your relationships, and your routines. You stop justifying bad habits and start building your life around discipline and purpose. You realize that discipline isn't a restriction, it's a privilege, a sign that you're preparing for something greater. As your identity shifts, so does your relationship with solitude. Where you once feared being alone, now you cherish it. Solitude becomes your workshop, your training ground, your place of refinement. You use quiet moments to reflect, to plan, to visualize the future you're building. You no longer need constant validation or applause. You become your own source of accountability, your own standard bearer. This internal transformation is the foundation of lasting wealth. When you change how you see yourself, you change what you allow into your life. You stop settling for less, stop tolerating mediocrity, and start demanding more from yourself and your surroundings. You become the kind of person who attracts opportunities, who commands respect, who inspires others, not by what you say, but by who you are. And as this new identity takes root, you'll find yourself thinking beyond personal gain. You'll start to focus on something even bigger, building a legacy, creating value, and making an impact that outlasts you. That's the next sign on your journey, a shift from chasing success to building significance. As your identity transforms, your vision expands beyond yourself. You begin to realize that true wealth isn't measured by what you accumulate, but by what you create, contribute, and leave behind. The pursuit of mastery becomes your new obsession, not just mastery of a skill or craft, but mastery of your own mind, your habits, and your purpose. You stop chasing every new trend or shiny opportunity, and instead you dig deep into your chosen path. You understand that surface-level effort produces surface-level results, but depth creates dominion. The world doesn't remember those who dabbled, it remembers those who built, refined, and left a mark. You start to see your work as a form of service. Every product you design, every solution you offer, every word you speak is an opportunity to add value to others. You no longer ask, "What can I get?" but "What can I give that multiplies?" This shift from self-interest to service is what separates the truly wealthy from those who are merely rich. You realize that money follows value, and value flows from a refined mind and a sharpened skill set. The more useful you become, the more the world rewards you, not just with money, but with influence, respect, and legacy. Purpose becomes your compass. You wake up each day with a sense of mission, knowing that your actions are building something bigger than yourself. You stop measuring your worth by applause or status and start measuring it by the impact you make in the lives you touch. You understand that real freedom isn't about buying more, it's about needing less and giving more. The man who needs nothing is the most powerful man alive because he cannot be manipulated, distracted, or bought. He leads with clarity, with intention, and with a sense of responsibility to those who will come after him. You begin to think generationally. You ask yourself, what am I building that will outlast me? How can I ensure that the next generation doesn't have to start over? You invest in systems, in people, and in principles that endure. You become a steward of your resources, your reputation, and your wisdom, knowing that your legacy is not just what you leave behind, but what you set in motion. You understand that the greatest empires are built not on the backs of individuals, but on the shoulders of those who were willing to serve a vision greater than themselves. This focus on mastery and legacy changes the way you approach every challenge. You're no longer looking for shortcuts or easy wins. You're building for the long game, stacking small victories and trusting the compound effect of daily discipline. You know that significance is not achieved overnight, but through years of consistent effort, unwavering purpose, and a commitment to excellence. And as you step fully into this mindset of mastery and legacy, you'll notice one final, unmistakable sign, a quiet confidence that you are exactly where you need to be, doing exactly what you were meant to do. The world may not always notice, but wealth in every sense of the word has already taken notice. And that, more than anything, is the mark of a life well lived. There's a subtle shift that happens when you're truly walking the path to wealth. A shift so quiet most people miss it. It's not announced with fanfare or celebrated with applause. Instead, it reveals itself in the smallest details of your daily life. You begin to notice confirmations everywhere, not in the form of sudden riches, but in the way you carry yourself, the standards you uphold, and the peace you feel even in uncertainty. The world may not see it yet, but you know deep down, you are no longer the same person you once were. You wake up each morning with a sense of purpose, not panic. Your days are no longer dictated by outside demands, but by your own intention. You find yourself making decisions from a place of clarity, not confusion. The habits you once struggled to maintain now feel natural, almost automatic. You no longer need to force discipline, it's become part of your identity. The temptations that used to pull you off course now barely register. You've outgrown the need for constant validation and you're comfortable moving in silence, building in the dark, knowing that the results will speak for themselves. You notice that your relationship with setbacks has changed. Where you once saw obstacles as reasons to quit, now you see them as opportunities to refine your strategy and strengthen your resolve. You don't panic when things go wrong, you adapt, you learn, and you keep moving forward. This resilience is the quiet proof that you're becoming the kind of person who can handle abundance, not just financially, but mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. Your circle has evolved too. The people around you are no longer just companions, they're collaborators, mentors, and fellow builders. You seek out conversations that challenge you, environments that stretch you, and relationships that inspire you to rise higher. You're no longer afraid to be the least experienced person in the room because you know that's where the most growth happens. You've learned that proximity to greatness is itself a form of wealth. Perhaps the most powerful sign of all is the way you now view your own journey. You're no longer obsessed with the finish line. You've fallen in love with the process, the daily grind, the small wins, the quiet moments of reflection. You understand that wealth is not a destination but a direction. It's not about having more but about becoming more. Every day you're stacking evidence that you are on the right path, even if the world hasn't caught up yet. And so, if you're seeing these signs, if you feel the shift, if you recognize the growth, if you sense the quiet confidence building inside you, know this: wealth is no longer just a possibility for you. It's an inevitability, not because of luck or timing or circumstance, but because you've become the kind of person wealth is drawn to. You've aligned your thoughts, your actions, and your standards with abundance at the core. You're not chasing riches, you're attracting them simply by being who you are becoming. This is the final confirmation. The world may not notice today, but wealth has already taken notice. And as you continue to walk this path, remember, the greatest riches are reserved for those who are willing to become more, give more, and build more than anyone else. Your journey is just beginning, and the best is yet to come.